friend Michael was one, and my friend Salvador Gomez, because I prayed for a Mexican to put me around the world, because I'm a songwriter. And songwriting has its blessings, because being a Christian isn't dull. You have divine appointments, because you study Scripture, and God just sends you these beautiful people into your life to make miracles take place. And so I prayed for a Mexican, because I sing Espanol. And my friend David, he's the pastor from Bolivia. He let me sing 35 times to his 500 congregation. So, and I was the head singer for when it was made special. The very first Sabbath, they had the conference people. It was 850 people that day. So I did Revelation 14, the three angels' messages. But anyway, I've got old Bibles here. But I want to tell you a little bit of myself. I knew I was different when I was little. I knew God had blessed me with insight, because we had a lot of stories from the little friend and just the primary treasure, all the little booklets and youth instructor. And I was blessed with an 8th grade Adventist school teacher who told me to walk alone, Mike. He says, you're a follower, but when you walk with Jesus, you'll be a leader of the world. But this is a neat little presentation because it's my life testimony. I got to hear Michael's 2 days ago, the other Michael here. I've been blessed with a lot of Michaels for some reason. Just 2 days ago, my friend Michael, he says he doesn't have the right words to say, but he called the Bible a magic book. It's a bad word called a magic book, but it is. You just open any page, and he says, whenever I feel low, I just open up any page. I just turn to it, and he blesses me. And he has his own distiller, but he knows he's a sinner, but he just loves the Lord, and he loves this special. This is a 1828 Bible. It's got Steve Bohr in it, and don't think that Steve Bohr is innocent. We're all guilty. Steve Wohlberg, he doesn't believe the 25. Me and Michael, we believe in the charts. And so I have a chart here, and that's only 1843, but I believe in both of them, because great controversy. 2:18 says that Habakkuk 2. So I have on here the combination for Adventists is Revelation, turn to the right of your combination, to Revelation 10:10. It's a sweet, bitter experience. And that's what I'm on today from my wagon train out of Jump Off Joe, St. Joseph, Missouri. And then Habakkuk 2, which I just made mention, great controversy, page 218, is established by the Lord. There's no accidents on it. It talks about the secret societies, the league of the Roman and the Jew. They always make trouble. They're the strange children. They're the odd fellows, and they work with Rome. So watch out for Revelation 17. It tells you about how the Muslims are coming in and everything. But they're all good people down below. It's the systems, my brothers and sisters, the systems of making money at any cost of destroying human life. But anyway, this is my favorite book. My wife got it for me for $300 from Portland, and I should have kept track, but I have attention deficit, so I'm called ADS, but it's SDA backwards. So anyway, I'm an ADS SDA, but it's an 1844 Bible, and it is so beautiful. So it could have been on the wagon train of 1845. So I said that belonged to my great-great-grandma Susan. Susanville, Oregon is named after her. Susanville, California, the 49er gold rush. But the first gold rush was the one to Oregon. But I don't want to forget what I want to say. When I was in the 3rd grade, I looked up in the sky, and I said, everybody believes in the world being 6 billion years old. I says, Mom, I says, something's wrong here. I says, I believe, Mom, because it said there was no oceans, that there was a layer of water, like a mother's womb. And so the world became like a vegetable ground, big plants, big animals, huge. Men and women were 20, 25 feet tall. And now in Rose City, California, they have these whole bodies that are found. The heads are this tall. So it gets really exciting. So when I was in the 3rd grade, I told this to my teacher. He says, Mike, we never heard stuff like this before. But he said it makes sense because now we have our oceans. The flood came, and on top of Mount Everest, there was actually seashells on top of Mount Everest. So it got better and better and better. I've won 7 professors now with my logger's story about the water, and all the plant life, all that is squeezed into oil. So we have fossil fuel and everything. In found a clip in Alaska. It's amazing miracle story. I got a nice letter when I was up at Great Falls, Montana, at Bynum or something like that. And he had a big long beard. He said the world's 6 billion years old. And I said, can I tell you my logger story? Yeah, I've already told this to so many people because he was one of the instructors for the big, huge dinosaur they had in the museum. I told him my story about the layer of water and how diamonds were made in 7 days. They proved it with a piece of pipe under lots of pressure, made in 7 days. And that's how come they have all this going on. He accepted. He wrote me a letter 2 weeks after I got home. Of course, I've lost his address. I don't follow through on anything. He says, Mr. Wallace, I'm not an Adventist yet, but I'm a Protestant. I can't thank you enough for teaching me in a simple way that layer of water broke my 6 billion years. So I just want to throw that in. That's my warm-up, and I'm going to put my other hat on now. It's going to be my 1844, 1845 hat. I have songs here written in Spanish, and then I ran out because I used my same melody. But my favorite one was Come Let Us Worship, and my divine appointment was the General Conference president came to Oregon on the exact day, at the exact time, for me to do my very, very first song I've ever wrote. But I did like 40, 50. I've found many of them in the Bible. I call myself Beverly O'Shea, who lived to be 103, and I'm his replacement because I've wrote 49 Psalms, 7 Revelation, 7 Isaiah, plus 7 this and 7 that throughout the Bible, like charity and the Beatitudes. But this is an amazing story because it's called 1844. It was sweet in 1844 because Jesus was coming and everything agreed. William Miller's 14 principles were real. I mean, it made goosebumps on your arm because everything he said was right, proven from the Bible. And it wasn't a matter of somebody speaking in tongues or something. He went through the audience. He was an old farmer, shook their hands. He gave his whole inheritance for this message of the Jesus coming, the advent of Jesus. And so it got sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. But October 22 came, and that's interesting. 22. I've got Genesis 22 because it says God will provide a lamb. I've got Psalms 22. It talks about thou art holy. That's Jesus being pierced on the cross. And I got Revelation 22, the last one. And then we have October 22, 1844. So it gets really exciting, people. And bear with me because it gets better. Even when it's bitter experience, it gets sweet. But Revelation 10, twin, I didn't know about it for 46 years. My wife knew about it, but I didn't know anything about it. And it just hit me like a rock. That's the sweet experience of 1844. The bitter was afterwards. So 1845, we moved to Oregon, because people didn't like us because Jesus didn't come. But there was a little girl. She's 16, 17 years old. She had a Bible just like this one. My wife bought this for me too. She lets me buy it. I have over 100 instruments. I've given away, I don't want to say it because my wife will listen to this sometime and I don't want her to know. But this was only like a 12-pounder. But Ellen Harmon, I call her Ellen Harmony because she harmonized the whole scripture together. Not just Desire of Ages, which Billy Graham became famous. That's what the book he read. He read those stories and made it live because she makes everything come alive because she had visions, and the visions just made her on top of the world and gave us the right hand of the gospel of medicine. So we knew how to live. We lived by hydrotherapy and nutrition. Now we live by chemotherapy, radiation. The big difference. Now watch this. I put this up like this. And she held it for about a half an hour. I got to see this book at Gladstone, the real Bible she held. So I'm really happy. I was a little kid. I was the runner at a little camp meeting called Gladstone. There'd be 10,000 people everywhere. People from Borneo that were headhunters. I got to see the skulls of their bodies hooked onto their hair. It really made me feel good that Jesus loves even the ones that are murderers. There's still hope, my people. John 3:16. Don't give up on Jesus. So anyway, this is my story. We went on Jump Off Joe, and there's an old song called Oh Susanna, Won't You Cry For Me? I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. I thought, that's crazy. That's a neat little story. It sounds like they're going on a wagon train. Well, my grandpa, my great-great-grandpa William, were related to the William Wallace on the London Bridge, which is in Arizona. It hit me. That's it. Because by the pictures I saw of my great-great-grandpa and grandma, there's always a piano. There's always something going on. So the banjo, they were into the music world. So I got real excited about it. And then I followed the route to the Oregon. But there was a man named Trader Joe. Trader Joe grocery store. There's Trader Joe, his little brother Steve. Well, Joe and Steve were the Meek family that were friends of the Indians. They were traders. Many a wagon, like I have here, never made it to Oregon. They were in parts of Oregon, but in the deserts of Oregon, they didn't make it to the Willamette Valley, Oregon, which they wanted. They called that the Jerusalem, so they called it Salem. But it's exciting because we were lucky. Susan's father, who's in charge of the 300 wagons, it's a miracle because I believe in divine appointments. He happened to look in the brush, and here was Steve Meek, the trapperman, talking to the Indians about our 300 wagons. We've lost 30 lives already because there's no water in the deserts of eastern Oregon. And he says, that's it. The reason we can't get to the Dalles is because we paid him $50. He's selling us off for Hudson Bay beaver pelts. That's it. And so when he come back to camp, they were all waiting. The rope was set in the air. He says, Steve Meek, that rope is for you. John Heron heard what you had just done. So John Heron formed this posse. They got ready to noose him. He pleaded. He got on his knees. He begged for mercy. They let him, I think it was in 4 or 5 days we made it. But my grandpa, my great-great-grandpa William, that's Susan's husband, she was only like 21. She had one little girl. She walked the whole way. Women are strong, very, very strong. But William was sickly. He just couldn't handle it. Maybe he was in the mines of Alabama, Georgia too much. He was a gold assayist, so he knew all about gold. Well, Susan was walking on a dusty trail along a creek bed, and she saw an old rusty bucket. It was blue. She picked it up, and by the creek was all these little rocks like fool's gold. But it's beautiful. I love fool's gold more than real gold because I can't find no real gold. I can only find fool's gold, iron pyrite. But anyway, she picked it up. She filled the whole bucket clear full of gold, but she didn't know it. She put it in the wagon. He was delirious the whole time because there's no water. They made it to the Dalles. He came to, and all of a sudden there's this bucket inside the wagon that he was sleeping next to. He says, Susan, I'm not losing it. This rock is gold. I'm a gold assayist. And boy, when William Wallace heard that his wife found all this gold, there became the gold rush. And do you know what Susan's middle name was when she was born? Just like Methuselah, it's going to rain at the end of the world. Her name was Susan Rush Wallace. So the Oregon Gold Rush, to me, was named after my great-great-grandma Susan. Susanville, Oregon, Susanville, California. She's very special. And John, that's her dad, kept a diary. So right by Strawberry Mountain, somewhere in that area, is where this gold must have been in the diary, because they tore the page out. I've got the diary. I don't have it with me. I don't even have my beautiful she's beautiful. I don't have her picture even. But anyway, the gold rush is on. 20,000 or more came from China. They tore the whole thing up upside. They carried little baskets with a rod across them. Tough dudes. A lot of Adventists married the Chinese men. One went back to China. I got to meet her. She's 90 years old. She was playing piano at Gladstone here about 3 or 4 years ago. But it's an amazing story. So anyway, we left the Dalles, went down the Columbia, and many of them died going down the river. They made it through the bad time through the desert. It was called the Trapper Trail. We didn't go to Walla Walla. We took the Trapper Trail. And that was where they could fool people and sell us off for beaver pelts. And we'd all die in the desert with no water. We blame it on the water. When it was really, Trapperman knows every mountain hill. That's his job. Now this is 1845, the spring. Now it's summer. Now it's getting later and later. It's getting later and later. And so we went to Whitehall, where great-great-great-grandpa John Heron's favorite friend was a Baptist, Methodist, real good Christian. Anyway, we went from Whitehall. We got on the other side of Salem, and William says, wife, we're going to settle right here, right by the river. So West Salem, all West Salem, belonged to my great-great-grandpa. But remember, the gold hit big in 1849, real big. In fact, Grandpa made $5,000 in one summer, and William, that's his his brother-in-law, Susan's older brother, he became the first sheriff of Salem. That's William Jackson Heron. It's in the police book. It's a big cover. It's a huge cover this big. It's a big book at Brownsville, Oregon. I just love looking at it. And anyway, he come back with his 5,000, but my grandpa, not too smart, he bought 850 cattle. So he's taking his cattle down through Roseburg because they made it rich down in California at Sutter Creek. So he wants to take his family. We got as far as Roseburg. The Indians got us, took away 800 of our cattle. We have 50 left, but it was not just the cattle. They burnt our lodge, and Susan should have been in the lodge. That's my great-great-grandma, should have been in this log cabin. But they burned her to the ground, and she was washing. She was probably picking some flowers or getting some berries or something. Anyway, she was able to she survived, or I wouldn't have been born. So anyway, the eight of them stayed right around there at Wolf Creek. And you go to Wolf Creek, you'll see 3 fir trees, right planted when they're real little. And now they're big. They're about as big as this one right here, or bigger. And that's where William and Susan are buried. And the Converses, they're taking care of it. Now Converse, that's like a tennis shoe. That's a special name to the Wallaces because we were almost married into the Converses because Susan's other sister, she was the oldest sister, Susan's other sister wanted to marry Charles Converse. That was James's best friend. And remember, I told you about the heavy book in the air by Ellen Harmon. She became Ellen White. She married James. So we have one child named Ellen, which we call her Nellie, and we have another child named James, after James White. That's my great-grandpa. So great-grandpa named his son Charles, after Charles Converse, and he put the melody right to the song called What a Friend We Have in Jesus. So I'm a melody writer, and I feel real comfortable, but Grandpa was named after Charles Converse. So it's exciting to me, and I went to the Oregon State Fair, and the Converses were singing Frank Sinatra, and I told the mom and dad. They smiled and yelled, and they said, wow, we know the whole story. So the Converses means a lot to us. But as far as the tennis shoe, I don't think that's really part of the story here. Anyway, it gets better here. I've got all this going on in my head. I hope I can keep the sequential going. But the 1845 was just really sweet to us because James, when he grew up bigger and bigger, he moved to a place called Richland. But James was strong, just like James White was strong. He had 10,000 sheep with his youngest son, Jess. So it's almost like Jesse James. But Jess moved to California later. But they had all these sheep. But the cattlemen didn't like sheep people. So we had 10,000 sheep. So Charles was shot in the shoulder. He carried the bullet all of his life. So he was a carpenter, real good carpenter. Built churches and everything. Klamath Falls, Medford, someplace in this area. I was too stupid. I didn't pay attention. But it's an amazing story. James was up in the sheep, and I was going with my wife through a town called Powder or something like it. It means gold, I think. Powder River. And I look over here, and along the creek bed, it said Jimmy Creek. I said, that's it, Cheryl. That's it. That's the creek that Jimmy, his name wasn't James, they called him Jimmy. Jimmy stabbed a cougar 60 times because he was on top of his dogs. If you don't have dogs, you don't have sheep. So they were their life, and they always wore heavy clothes. They slept in their clothes. They were sheep people. They were the shepherd, just like Jesus, our shepherd. I'm from a shepherd. My grandpa, I never saw him. He died in 48, and I was born in 50. But it's an amazing love story. It got better. We moved down here to Oregon, in Salem area, and my dad, he's a logger. And so there's actually 7 generations now. William, James, Charles, my dad's Ed. So I call this movie Edson and Emma. And so that's really exciting because I go to antique stores and I get Bibles, I got 15 of them right here. I think I got Edson's wife's Bible. So this is called the Edson, Emma, and I'm Ed's son because my dad's name's Ed. So it's an amazing story. Then my son's named George, after my millionaire uncle who put my son through college at Walla Walla, and then he named his son Ed. So there's 7 of us. I've never seen my grandson yet. But anyway, this is the story I've got going. It's a very exciting story. because it's so sweet, 1844, and then turned bitter. But very few Adventists, very few Protestant Christians even know that the beginnings of Salem, Oregon was from William and Susan and John and his son William Jackson Heron. William Jackson Heron was the first sheriff. His wife wrote the song called Jesus Paid It All. Everybody knows that song. And then her little sister married Dr. Brooks Kaiser. So they made two towns after him, Brooks and Kaiser. And I live in a little tiny town, but 20 years ago, there was a man living. His name was Dr. Heron. So the Kaiser family, which there's Kaiser Permanente, I think they started that too. Anyway, the Herons became the doctors of the little tiny towns. But it's an exciting story. I picked all this stuff up, and like I said, I've got many, many instruments. This is the Bible from Emma. It says 1883, Volga City, Iowa. And that's when Edson was living there. And I was hoping to have my friends. I got some real nice colored people here, Wesley and Ghana and Julianne. I just met her the other day. But anyway, I just love the story of Edson and Emma, because they made 120 churches down there, and they built like a Ferris deal when they had a church and a medical center. So the right hand of the gospel of how to heal through nutrition and water therapy was all brought about. And back in 1920, it was so bad, but nobody that went to our colleges, even when it was snowing, they were out in the tents, they did hot, cold, none of them died. But the whole city died from this terrible, some type of Asian flu or something that came through in the 1920s. But we had it down with our therapy of the hot and cold. It's an amazing story. These are some of my songs that I have. These are all written in Espanol, and I just use my same melody. My friend Emma, who started me in my music world, she's got twin girls, so I call my ministry the Three Angels. A is for Anna, and S is for Serhi, and the N is